Zane. And it is such a wonderful thing to have this great woman with us on this morning. She is a retired New York City detective. She's a doctor of public health research. She's a financial literacy consultant. She's a journalist, a speaker, an author, and an advocate. Just a few other things that she does. I don't know if she has time for much more. She keeps adding different things, but Dr. Vanessa, we're so glad to have you with us on this morning. Welcome to 2021. Why don't you greet the people and give everyone just a little synopsis about who you are and what your passion is.
Well, thank you, Bishop. Thank you for this opportunity to be on this platform for the first to the top of the year of 2021 as we move out of COVID of 2020. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. Yes, I am retired detective for New York City Police Department, and I have my passion now is financial literacy, to build and teach families and bring them knowledge and inform them about financial literacy and ways where they can build generational wealth, create a legacy, and plan selflessness for their family for generations to come.
All right. Well, that's very important. And in particular, it's important for us in this season that we are in for 2021 as we begin this new year, looking at finance, looking at making sure that we are doing what we need to do in order for us to do just what you said, build that legacy of financial, not only literacy, but looking to make sure that it is something that we participate in. It's one thing to have the knowledge, it's a whole other thing to actually activate it and do something about it. So can you talk about some of that? I know one of the things that you have done, you have been a New York City detective. And so I am sure that, and I'm going to assume this, that in your role, and I may be wrong, of going in and out of our community, some of the things that has brought you to where you are is seeing the condition financially of our communities.
Yes, I'll speak for my last appointment. I worked at the Missing Persons Squad and was the Brooklyn and Staten Island liaison at the Office of Chief Medical Examiner. And in that capacity is where I investigated my homicides, my DOAs, and within the Brooklyn and Staten Island community. But overall, in the spectrum of my career, I have seen a lot of things within community in terms of families struggling with a financial in a financial capacity. I looked at the food insecurities, the health inequities, the health disparities, the social determinants. During my tenure also at NYPD, I worked in the ER as a physician assistant. So I see a lot of things that are lacking, the disparities within the community. So it's the whole totality of what brings me to be an advocate and a pillar in the community.
Okay. So right now, what you're dealing with in terms of your financial thrust, we know that right now, recently, the Congress set out a bill around making sure that people get a whole bunch of money, a whole $600 to to stimulate the economy within the framework of people's families. Can you kind of talk about this whole issue around the psychology of deprivation as you so poignantly discussed with me earlier?
Yes, I think once the individuals are watching, once people are watching what's going on in Congress, amid COVID and the stimulus package, they get all geared up and excited that $600 is going to save them for this financial deficit that they're in. And they think, and the psychology of deprivation is just like your income taxes. Once they get it, they got to spend it. The stimulus
Mm-hmm.
package, they get it, they got to spend it. But what people need to start focusing on is how to use that money to make more money. During this time of COVID, the unemployment was high, a lot of people's home, a lot of people became creative. A lot of people tapped into resources that they never heard of. A lot of people tapped into their inner self of what they can do and became creative in business wise. And one of the things that came out of that is that everyone should have a home-based business. Everybody can, every and anybody can be a consultant. What are you good at? What are you passionate? What can you do? What type of service, what type of product can you offer someone? Having a home-based business itself, you can hire your children. And I ask people all the time, is your child working? Oh, my child's only 5, my child's only 6, my nephew's 10. They can't work. Sure they can. In a home-based business, they can work. It's IRS publication 15. You can hire your child in a home-based business. It's a tax write-off for the parent up to $12,400, and is a non-tax deduction for the child. So when people start thinking about the stimulus package, they need not to just be all geared up and ready for the party, um, for the stimulus package, because once you spend that $600, you have nothing else in return. But if you hire your child and create a home-based business, you can create expenses, you can write off expenses, and you can get your money back.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that IRS publication was what again?
15.
Publication 15. Okay, that's good to know. So you said you can hire your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews in a
Anyone.
home base, any of them. Now, is there a ceiling to how much they can make?
Well, you're eligible to write off $12,400 per child.
Okay. But is that the ceiling for them that they can make for the year?
Well, that's for them to not, no, that's not the ceiling for them, because anything that they make over that, you can roll it over into an IRA for them.
Okay.
Okay,
So when
right.
you start talking, so that's kind of the one of the reasons I bring that up is because we don't always learn how to handle the money that comes. What are you supposed to do? How do you build the wealth for the future of the people to who it is that you are responsible to and for? There's a scripture that says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just, right? Well, if I'm going to leave an inheritance for my children's children, then I've got to know not just simply a spiritual inheritance, but rather a financial, a social, the full person. But that financial piece is where we often fall short because we don't know how to diversify. Can you talk about diversifying in your finances, if you will?
Sure. First, we need as an individual and as a people, we need to first own what our situation is, right? We need to first learn how to spend less money. We're not, as the Black and Brown community, we're 95% consumers and own nothing. Okay. First, we need to spend less money. There's a rule. We go by a rule: 10, 10, 30, 50, 10% for tie-in, 10% for saving, 30% for incidentals, and 50% for your bills. And once you get that discipline and commitment under control, when you can track your spending daily, every penny to the dime, because sometimes you go outside and you have $20 in your pocket. You figure you're just buying something, miscellaneous things for $20. And then, okay, the next day you take out another $20, but you don't realize at the end of the week, of a 5-day week, you spend $100. And at the end of the month, you spend $400. But what do you have? What do you have to show for it? And then the next thing you need to do is make more money. Everybody needs to be able to have a minimum of 9 streams of income. You should have at least a minimum of 9 streams of income building multiple streams of income. And that could be either from active or passive income, real estate, a product or service that you're providing. And then the next thing you need to do.
Can I cut you there for just a
Sure.
second? You just said active and passive income.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Okay. We for people who work, there's 401s. You have 401s, 401 your IRAs, rental income, work income, any type of business that you have. These are the types of active and passive income. Active incomes, money that just makes money, like your 401, your deferred comp, your thrift savings.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Well, that's
And then
good to know. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. So continue.
and the last thing you need to do is get your money back. So
Mm,
another way to get your money back is you need to learn the tax rules of the game and then play the game by their rules.
okay.
Because there's only two systems. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, rich or poor, male or female. It's either your business or an employee.
So either you are working for yourself or you're working for someone else.
Absolutely. And it's
Okay.
the big difference because you can't have rich people with no poor people.
Now that is true. There's a scripture that says the poor you have with you always. It never said you had to be one of them though.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the thing is that when people sit back and think about why Donald Trump is not paying any taxes, or why Warren Buffett is paying less taxes than his secretary, what is really going on at that capacity of wealth is because they've learned the rules of the game and playing the game by their rules.
And it is important for us to learn. There's a scripture that says, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." And in that scripture, it literally is basically talking about being devoid of clothing, covering.
Yes,
And
yes.
so we end up being naked and exposed
Mhm.
because we don't have knowledge, the things that we need. And so it is really good to hear that one of the things that you are passionate about is providing people with information, literacy, giving them the tools that they need in order to move from where they are. In this season of COVID, um, you know, home-based businesses are really starting to take off. So when you start talking about being an entrepreneur, are there any suggestions around things that people can be doing as entrepreneurs in this season?
Well, this season, people have plenty of time to be creative and think about what they can do, what they're passionate about. Everybody could be a consultant. You could do hair, you could do babysitting, you could do tutoring. Everybody could be a consultant in some fashion. Um, what do they like to do? What type of product can you provide a service of something that helps you?
Mm-hmm.
What can you give back to the people? The home-based business is that you don't need to make a profit tomorrow. You just have to have the intent to make a profit within 3 to 5 years. Because any
Oh,
startup,
now say that again. Say that again.
and for a home-based business, you just have to have the intent to make a profit within 3 to 5 years. Every business that starts, there's always going to be a loss. And then we talk about documentation. Everything has to be documented. I just wanted to jump back a little bit in terms of the difference between being an employee and a non-employee or a business owner own business. Is that as a regular employee, you only have about 7, 8 tax deductions, but as a business, you have up to 475 tax deductions to write off.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. 475.
Yep. Up to 475. Absolutely.
Well, that's great knowledge. That's information. See, and information is power if you know how to utilize it, if you know what it takes for you in order to acquire what it is that is available to you, but then also to utilize it, how to be a good steward over what has been given to you. And that means that we have to have information. And it's not always what you know, sometimes it's who you know as well. Being able to connect the right dots and all of those things. I want to deviate for just a second, and I meant to say this up front. I want to congratulate Senator Warnock down in Georgia for his victory on yesterday, and hopefully, from our perspective, that there will be also Senator Ossoff, who is leading at the time. But I wanted us to kind of just speak for a second because, the pundits of the day are saying that these two gentlemen won because of their because of Donald Trump, that it was an anti-Donald Trump, and Donald Trump divided the vote in the Republican Party, and give no credit and no credence to these two great candidates who ran an excellent race, who dealt with the issues that concern Georgia, and who brought this particular victory and hopefully the potential victory in the other race, because he's still leading. But can we kind of talk just briefly about that power of the Black vote as well? Because all of this has to do with our community, the economics, the politics, the policing in our communities, all of these things impact us on one level or another.
Absolutely, and I want to echo the congratulations to Senator Warner, because it's a historical election. He is the first Black senator for Georgia, I believe. And
Right.
to my knowledge, Ossoff also won the election. So I think with the two Democratic leading, they now have control of the Senate. The power of the Black vote. We're power in numbers beyond what we can imagine. Not just the vote, just at the vote. The economy depends on us. Being 95% consumers, we can shut down the economy. So people need to understand the power that we have. We can really dictate how things move to the left or to the right, but we have to demand also the things that we want and hold our constituents accountable. We talked about the economy, what's in our communities, how has it benefited our people, how has not benefited our people, what are the resources that are available or the lack thereof, the politicians that's in the communities, the constituents, we need to hold them accountable for the things that they say when they want the vote, when they're running for it, and then once they get into office, we're not heard of again. Policing that you mentioned, this is the ongoing fragmenting gap for policing in communities, particularly communities of color. But we know that's a historical component to the systemic racism that's embedded in the tenets of the things that we do. So we know, I tell people all the time, the system is working how it's designed to work. And as a retiree of law enforcement, donning that uniform is a lot of things that you see. Okay, you don't agree with everything that goes on, but that's how the system is designed. It goes beyond just the entry level of policing. You have a judicial system at the court. You have a correction system. You have these laws that are in place, which embeds and feeds on that systemic racism.
So all of that affects the financial integrity of our community as well.
Absolutely.
If people are overly policed and have higher incarceration rates, then they're unable to become gainfully employed as they need to be, and then we are unable to provide the things that we need that flow in and out of the community naturally, organically.
Yes.
If you can't get a job, right, or if you don't even think to become a entrepreneur, and then if you become an entrepreneur, getting the skill set that's necessary to make what you're doing successful, expanded beyond just where it is, because you want where it might be only for a small group, but to go beyond that small group, we need to have literacy. We need to know how to market properly, and all of the things that happen. And in particular, COVID-19 has really hit Black and brown businesses very, very hard. So many of them will never come back as they were before, if at all. So since we're talking about finances, what are some of the things that can be done with a little bit that will help to grow in time to become greater?
Okay, great. What people can begin to do is to start saying no. Start saying no as a complete sentence. Sometimes people want to give and do and help others, but they're not in a position to do. They need to start discipline have discipline with their kids. Stop buying kids materialistic things that are no value. show them the value of money. And I think that when the problem is that if you change your mindset of money, this is your biggest asset. Changing the mindset of money. Um, Too many families spend holidays, Christmas, thinking about what they can buy, that they have to get this, they have to get that, and spend X amount of money that they don't have. But they have to learn how to grow their money. And I'm not talking about save it and put it up under the mattress. I'm not saying
Right.
put it necessarily in the bank where you're not getting when you're getting less than 1%. I'm talking about invest their money over time, insurance policies as an investment. Um, Annuities, pensions, build that generational wealth because this builds over time. This builds over time. Show their kids the concept of money. You know, let the money work for you. Let the money work for you overnight while you're sleeping, over time, over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
So how does that happen? How does one get their money to work for them?
Okay, first you got to get over the fear of losing money. Sometimes you got to invest to lose. Sometimes you got to, that's just the nature of the beast. You have to give something in order to get something. And over the prospectus of it, you will come out at the end. For one point in case, life insurance. Many individuals don't have life insurance. When they use GoFundMe as a mode of life insurance. Life insurance can also be a policy, an investment policy, where it builds over time, where it can be invested into a portfolio where it can still grow for your kids, your family, their kids, your grandkids, their kids over time. The inheritance,
Okay.
and you do, yes. Mm-hmm.
When you start talking about these particular tools that you're bringing to bear right now, how do we access those things? How do we access these tools that you're talking about?
Okay, first people need to see where they're at on the money scale. How they money, what type of money they have, how they utilize their money, their funds, what type of resources they are accessible to them. Are they spending things that they want versus things that they need? Can they cut back on things?
Excuse me. I'm sorry, excuse me.
No problem, sure. Can they cut back on things? Can they do without things? And people, in order to identify those things, people need to track where they're spending their money.
Okay. And so when you say track where they're spending their money, are you talking about all of the money that they're spending or just specific areas of money?
All of their money, every dime to the penny, down to the penny. They need to keep a track of what they're spending because that's the only way they can get a total assessment of where they can cut back from, or what really they don't need, or where they can circumvent that money that they can save into other things. Look at credit cards. Everyone's getting credit cards here and there. That's not a way of savings. People figure, okay, credit card is money. They can still get things here and there. That's not a way of saving.
Okay. So they're getting credit cards, but then they don't know how to utilize the credit card.
Absolutely.
Some of the things that they do. Tell us some of the things that people do wrong with credit cards.
Oh, they do. First of all, they don't look at the interest rate. They don't look at how much they're spending on a small purchase over a length of time. Sometimes they compensate the credit cards for the lack of funding. Cash is the best way to go if you can go. Okay, if you don't have enough cash, then you shouldn't be buying it. You shouldn't
cash is still king, is what you're saying.
Cash is still king for right now. Until we become a cashless society.
Right.
Because that's down the pipeline as well. Yes, like credit cards. It's like money to people, and they use it as such. For holidays, Christmas, they'll max out all the credit cards and spend years and years on top of Christmases paying it back. And if you look at it in the long run, it's not cost effective.
Right. I mean, how do you purchase? Like you just mentioned Christmas. One of the things that we do in our communities is spend all of this money on the holidays, for Christmas, and then next year, the following year, we're still paying the interest rates because we're just paying the minimum over time. That TV could have been paid for 20 times over.
That's true.
And so how do we educate our people how do we get them to the place that you and I are talking about, where we have a better understanding of our finances, and what does it mean, like, to to do that, and get yourself to be feeling good about where you are, holistically, financially, spiritually, relationally, so forth and so on.
Okay, I would say first, get a home-based business, because if you hire your kids in a home-based business, you will pay them a reasonable wage, and then they can buy their own things. So therefore, it's a tax write-off for you, and they have the things that they want. So that saves money. Think about the
So
things.
you said they can buy their own things. I like the way that sounds.
Yes, of course, and it's a tax write-off for you. So that's one way of getting your money back. You hire them, it's a write-off, it's an expense. It's
Right.
And let them buy their own things.
Okay.
Okay. They can think about the things that they want. Sometimes you have things that's accessible to people, like Rent-A-Center, where they can put furniture and TVs and everything on layaway. Do you really need it? Ask yourself, do you really need it? Can you do without it? You have a lot of streaming availability, things that are free. People need to look at the subscriptions that they're paying for. What are they getting out of it? Is it something that's bettering themselves? Something that they can grow with? So they gotta look at where they're spending their money at.
So are you advocating places like Rent-A-Center?
No, I'm
okay.
I'm like, listen, if you don't have cash to buy it, then don't get it, or save your money at home and then buy it. Because going to Rent-A-Center is just like getting a credit card.
Right.
It's no different.
Right.
I say that to say that, people need to find other ways to enjoy the space that they're in. Is it a priority? They need to prioritize, what their environment. Just like when we eat, right? Too many people living to eat, but we need to eat to live.
We definitely need to eat to live instead of living to eat, and especially under COVID.
Yeah,
COVID
exactly.
COVID has done some things to us that many of us are not too proud of.
Exactly. And we have the brunt of the effects of COVID, because we're presenting different. We're presenting different. So the treatment and the contact and everything else that come with the health disparities of health and with the social determinants, we're still at the bottom of the toll pole in that perspective.
So can we kind of now talk a little bit more around the advocacy that you do financially? You're an author. I think you have some social pay the bills and meet the various needs. Now, when people reach out to you, where would they? You said you have a website. What's your website?
My website is drvanessavdancing.org. So that's Dr. Dr. My name, Vanessa, Vanessa. The middle initial V is in Victor, and my last name, DEDAN, Z as in zebra, INE.org.
Dr. Desanay.
And I just want to add to Keeping Up with the Joneses. If you recall from the post that I sent, that social wealth is that status.
Right.
Is that status?
That's that social wealth. Yeah.
Social wealth.
How am I seen in the community's eyesight?
Exactly.
Yeah. If I drive a certain car, or if I wear a certain thing. Listen, when I was a little boy, we wore sneakers that they call Bobos. You don't know anything about that kind of stuff.
Oh.
And Bobos were the sneakers that were off-brand.
Oh,
and you did everything you could to eventually be able to wear some Converse canvas sneakers because you wanted to be like everybody else. You wanted to fit in. You don't want to stand out in the crowd, because when you walk, your shoes said flop, 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 flop.
That was back then, so you can imagine today.
Right. Wait. You said that like I'm really old. Okay?
Oh, I don't mean like that, Michelle.
Way back then.
I thought about a price for the Bobos and the price of some Jordans is a big difference.
Oh yeah, it's a huge difference these days. And so then how do we get our communities out of that, where we are enamored by glitz. We are enamored by this false identity. How do we get us financially to come to the place where we understand that sometimes we're our own worst enemies when it comes to finance?
Yes, I tell people all the time, no matter how much you do, no matter how much you give, the first time you can't do or give is as if you never gave. I say that because some parents raise their kids on materialistic things. They have to have the newest this, the latest this. They have to be online for the next color to come out, the Jordans are here and there, and we really can't afford it. When you start the foundation from early, then you don't have the expectation of having to say no, or not being able to keep up.
So now you just mentioned saying no again, and you muted yourself. So if you can unmute yourself so you can talk to me. You started early on talking about being able to say no. Can you go there for me for a moment? What do you mean saying no to what?
Yes, sometimes when you have family members that want to borrow money, or you have friends or relatives that want to borrow money, or go places when you don't have any money, they need to just say no. Stop being in the limelight every place where you feel you are expected to be. No is a complete answer. People need to learn how to just say no and own it and live with it. And like I said, it's okay to say no, because
what about my feelings? What about that?
It's not about feelings, and that's the problem. That's why people can't be financially free, because they worry about their feelings.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you what I've learned from Dr. Lynn Richardson. And there's 5 things that there's 5 F's that keep people from being financially free, and which is their family, friends, fun, food, and feelings. And that's what it is.
Now you said that too fast. You said that too quickly. You got to slow down and let that kind of marinate for a second. You said family.
Yes, Dr. Lynn Richardson, she's my mentor in this crusade that I'm on, building this financial legacy and building this generational wealth, and able to bring the tools out to the community to teach others. And she'll tell you, there's 5 things, there's 5 F's that prevent people from being financially free, and that's food. How many times we go out and eat and splurge and hanging out and spending dinner and spending money?
You mean that I could spend more money going out to dinner than going to the grocery store, eat one time at that meal, and then be able to eat more times from what I buy at the grocery store that spends less? That doesn't feel that good to me. I mean, I want to.
But it's just like they say, right? You give a man a fish to eat for a day, you teach him how to fish to eat for a lifetime, right?
Right. But he also has to have access now. He also has to have access to a lake or to the stream where he can get that fish from too.
It's simple. So then we think about, so that's food. So we think about fun. How many people got to go out to the club or to go out, hang out? Drinks are not cheap. Drinks are cheap, and everybody's partying. You got to get in, and you don't realize how much money you're spending, right?
Can I cut you just there for a second? Sure. My wife and I many years ago went to a birthday party for someone, and we didn't drink one drop of alcohol, and those jokers wanted to split the bill with us, and the alcohol bill was double to what the food bill was. And then they want to charge us and act like, well, y'all, no, we didn't drink any of that. Y'all pay for that. Exactly. Y'all split that part over here. We'll come in over here.
We'll take care of the tip. We'll take care of the tip. And then I want to go into, you mentioned feelings. You can get over your feelings. All right. Building your self-esteem and focusing on yourself and self-care can overcome those feelings by telling somebody no. Okay, you can't own somebody else's deficits. You can't own other people's debts. So you got to kind of separate yourself from your feelings and their needs and other people's needs. Right?
So now that's 4 of them. You got one more.
That's 3, because family and friends were separate. Family,
Okay.
right? Family, people think they're obligated to help family. You may have some family members that's better, well off than others, and they feel that they're entitled. They feel that they're supposed to come to you. They'd be knocking on your door here. And I remember before my mom passed away, she used to always help people here and I used to tell us, you got to stop. You got to tell people no. And she had a hard time. She had a problem telling people no. So what she started doing is blaming it on me. She said, "Oh, well, Vanessa says no. Vanessa is taking care of this. She's paying me." That was a way of redeeming herself. And of course, they knew in the interim they wasn't going to come call me up and say, "Listen, can I get this?" Well, that wasn't going to happen because I was a stickler to that. So
you became the scapegoat, huh?
Exactly, I sure did, and I laugh about it today, but it's so true because sometimes people need someone else to be that scapegoat. And then we talk about the friends. How many times your friends, they need money for their rent, they need money to go someplace, they need money to go out, they need money to buy shoes. Sometimes you got to say no. Just say no. You don't have it. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say you don't have it.
Well, that's so important because people really try to give you this guilt trip.
Yes.
And oftentimes it's what we talk about where they want to make their emergency your emergency.
Absolutely.
And we cannot afford to allow, you'll never end up having anything, which kind of leads us back to this whole idea that I hear you talking about, and that is getting people to feel good about who they are. But you can't feel good about who you are if you're consistently borrowing from Peter to pay Paul.
Absolutely.
You can't feel good about yourself if you don't become, what you said, disciplined in these particular areas that are going to affect where you're headed to, not just where you are. Can you kind of talk about that whole issue around the urge to spend immediately versus putting something on the side for a rainy day?
I think about people having a fear with if they don't spend the money, they're going to lose it in some other way. They're not looking at how they're already losing it by gambling, spending, shopping. They're not looking at it that way. They're looking at it as it's going to go on forever. So they have to spend the income taxes. They have to spend the stimulus. They have to just get it out of their hand. But they need to be able to put it in an area where it can grow. And they don't have the discipline. They don't think about these things. So people need to take the time out, assess themselves into seeing how they can grow.
So you mean when the stimulus check comes, or when my IRS, my refund from the IRS comes, I'm not supposed to put that back in the economy and help the economy grow? You mean I'm supposed to be disciplined enough to put that on the side somewhere in an investment and do what? What was that 4-letter word you used? You said began with a G. Grow?
Grow or fear?
We grow. So we're supposed to let money grow. Or we not? No, we not fear. We're not supposed to be afraid of money.
Yeah, they should be afraid it's gonna walk away and never come back.
Right. That is the problem.
That's what.
And then waiting for someone else to do what we have to do for ourselves. So right. Now, so go back one more time. You gave us this 10, 10, 30, and 50. And you kind of went through it very, very quickly. I have this stimulus check coming. What am I supposed to do? 10, 10, 30, 50.
Okay, the stimulus check should be part of your total bills, your income. And in order to start saving, you have to have some kind of platform, some type of template that you're going to go by. So what we always say, the 10, 10, 30, 50. 10% you can tie, 10% you save, 30% is for your incidentals, and 50% for your bills. If your bills total more than your 50% that you have allocated for them, then you're living above your means.
Mm.
You got to have some kind of strategy of how to document and to be able to see where your funds are being allocated and distributed accordingly.
So 10% tithe,
Yes.
10% savings.
Yes.
Somebody else's savings or my own savings?
Oh, your own savings.
Okay. All right.
Your own
Now
savings.
that goes for husbands and wives. That's why I bring that up, right?
Well, the things with husband and wives. Let me let me just talk about that. Things with husband and wives. I understand that people, you have this joint connection, a husband wife here, but I still believe that husband and wife still should have something separate. Still should have something separate. And
Yes.
I say that also because when I talk about having a home-based business and building multiple streams of income, your spouses can also be employees, and you don't want them employees having a joint account, a joint business account, because if something goes wrong, it affects everyone. But if they have two individual business accounts, and then if something goes wrong with one, it doesn't necessarily affect the other. So,
Okay.
right, some things you can have joint, that's good. Well, I should say a trustable joint relationship. Not you can be married
Right.
and it's costing you more than that relationship, but
Yeah, for sure.
And so you have to think about, everybody have to come to the table with something, with a joint plan. It's a collaborative event, a collaborative effort for a married couple. So yes, it could be if they're doing their bills, if they have their bills together and all the expenses on the table, and they can now lay out what they have, so what they can take from, what they can add more to, what they can invest into, and what they can have for that night out on the town for one night.
So is that the one night out? Is that part of the 30%?
Yes, it's part of your incidentals. Yes.
So that 30% now needs to be a piece. Now, should 30% be the ceiling for that? And you should be really operating in something less than 30% there?
Right. It can, some people don't tie. So that 10% can go to savings. Some people have more bills, so they can make it their incidentals 20% and make their bills 60%. So you can manipulate how your money works, what works for you.
But you need to have a system, is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely. Okay. You have to have something somewhere, somehow, that's trackable, that's recorded, that's documented, every penny that you're spending, so you can be able to see where you can cut back from, or where you're spending too much money at, or where you need to put more money at, and reduce the bills.
So how do you help a person become that kind of disciplinarian in their capacity to track their spending?
Well, we have a 21 day to financial freedom when we take the individual step by step. Okay, it's not an overnight process. It's step by step, because they have to have time to absorb this newfound step that they're going to be making. They have to be able to think thoroughly, step by step, of what they need to do, what is going to be required for them to do, and to move into the space they want to move into.
So over time, you give them some tools that will help them see where they are. Now, when you do this, how is it received initially versus how it is in the end when they see the results?
Wow, they're shocked. They don't realize how much they're spending, how much they're saving, how much they can do in addition to what they're currently doing. Like, a lot of people don't know that they can buy a house or buy a car, buy things and have a business and be an entrepreneur. They don't realize the ability that they have. It's like a newfound them.
And that's because they have no system in place to track what they're doing, correct?
Absolutely. It's all about documentation, tracking, keeping records of what you're doing. So you can only appreciate things if you can visually see it, right? So that's how I talk
Mm,
about when you go outside, you got $20 in your pocket. It's just $20. You're not thinking about anything more or less, right? So, but the end of the 5-day week is $100, but you don't have anything to show for it. But you're not thinking you spent $100. But if you tracked it,
right.
if you track the $100, and at the end of the month you went out 9 to 5, 10 to 6, or whatever it is for a month, and that's now $400. Where did it go? What did you buy?
Yeah,
What did you own? What
right.
gain?
Yeah, it's the difference between making your own tea and coffee at home and going to Starbucks and spending $5 or $6 when you could go buy a box of tea bags that didn't even cost you $4.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
you can get 30 cups out of there.
Listen, Bishop, I'm gonna give you a better one. I'm gonna give you a better one. Yes, you save that money for that Starbucks, right? Now you go buy that box of tea for $4 or $5. But if you got some bush in the backyard, you
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
afford it.
Now it's got to be the right bush, not the bush that's gonna get you in trouble now.
Exactly. So that'll save you some money.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because you can grow. People talk about mint teas and other things. You can grow
Yes,
ginger.
yes.
You can grow mint.
Hmm.
You can grow all kinds of herbs and make your own teas and stuff at home.
Absolutely.
And I say that because you are a doctor of public health research,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
mean, tie that together for me because you wear all of these multiple hats, and that our public health affects our financial health.
Yes. Your health is wealth, right?
Mhm.
Yes, because I say that because people need to learn how to eat to live, and it's critical for our overall well-being, right? You know, we
Mhm.
we just look recklessly that our body's not a temple, but it is. So it's gonna react to how you treat it, right? The how you treat it. So it's not just eating to live just to get a nutritional component to it, but it also affects our social, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and environmental health. It's a whole package. You know, I always talk about when I talk about public health, when I talk about in individuals from a medical perspective. Um, let's say a family, the mother has like hypertension or diabetes, and they say she has a family of four, and I look at my medical component and I look and see what type of prevention that we can do. It may not be necessarily be cost effective for families to buy 2 meals to make 2 meals, but the mother, the one that's sick, is normally the one who's sacrificing themselves for the whole family. So you got to look at other preventative things of finding newfound ways for them to eat in order to live and survive and stop and not just necessarily sacrificing themselves all the time. So you got to look at the whole totality of what's accessible with individuals in their health regiments and how they can do about maintaining and managing their health care.
So my health care and my diet seem to correlate also with my finances.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, it's not always cheap to eat correct, to eat healthy is not always cheap, but a lot of things that people can just take the time, spend a little time, like you say, we can grow our herbs. You can
Hmm.
plant, you can and herbs are not necessarily seasonal. You can put them in a pot, a regular plant pot, and keep it in the house. They have to find other ways of eating. How they prepare the food is a big thing. And the type of seasoning, the content of what the seasons contain, the ingredients that's in the nobody takes the time to look at.
Hmm. So I know that one of the things that we have a problem with in our community is we eat a lot of processed foods.
Yes.
And then those processed foods then lead to latent health concerns in life.
Mhm.
And so, what is it that we can do in addition? If you have any suggestions around the poor quality of food that oftentimes is in the supermarkets in our neighborhoods, I know gentrification is coming around, and the quality kind of goes up when gentrification happens. But in the meantime, even then, with gentrification, they raise the quality and they raise the prices, right?
Exactly. And that's part of the problem, you know.
Right, right.
Now that we can't, not that we just can't live, we can't eat. So, you know, but to add to first the processed food, one thing many individuals don't know, that we all have precancerous cells, right? We have precancerous cells. And when you deal with processed foods, it's not just that the foods that's in the market, it's how they're feeding and breeding the animals that are, you know, that these foods are coming by. You know, a lot of them are being injected with hormones, a lot of them given all types of antibiotics. And people go to the stores, and I'll just use BBQs for one thing. They go with these big wings that look like turkey wings, and they think they're getting their money, their buck for their money, but it's not healthy.
Right.
It's not healthy. So you got to change your mindset about the things that you're eating. It's not that you're getting, you're always going to pay more for less, but you're not going to get more without a price. It's going to become, it's a health price. Okay. So when we talk about the poor quality of foods in our communities, particularly Black and brown communities, because these are the food deserts, right? These are the food deserts that come from other places and then they leave it here. I've been in stores where I've seen food repackaged.
Wow.
And sometimes people they look at it, oh, this is a sale, two for this. No, but it's been repackaged, but they're not looking at the quality and they're just accepting what's there because it sells. It sells. And then we think about the gentrification. Yes, the gentrification, you got to cater to the community that you're gentrifying it to.
Right.
So it's going to be at the cost of the other ones that's there, where the cost of living is already below the AMI of that community.
Well, you know, when you start talking about the, you know, what the average income for a community may be, when you have when you have gentrification that comes in, that median income level now shifts. And so when they start talking about, and I know this is a whole nother conversation, they start talking about affordable housing. What is the definition then for affordable, depending on the community that you come in? What's the definition of affordable food, depending on what they're doing? All of these things affect our financial livelihoods, but it goes again to literacy. So it kind of brings us all the way back around again to where we began this conversation around us becoming more informed about, you know, how do we handle money? How do we spend it? How do we save it? What do we do? You said it needs to work for us.
Yes. When we talk about, just to add to your AMI and housing and gentrification, communities, particularly communities of color that are that's on the hierarchy of the chopping block for gentrification, need to be at the table. They don't have a clue what's really going on in the community. They think because they're building these high rises that everybody's going to have that opportunity, where the city is selling property, is selling the communities out. In other words, I'm just going to say what it is. They're selling the communities out. And yes, affordable housing, you got 30, 50,000 people applying for 10 apartments. That's for 10 apartments. You have other communities, just for point in case, like in East New York, Brooklyn, which is in the process of being gentrified, but they rezoned part of Ozone Park, which is predominantly white and predominantly single family home and predominantly a higher income, into East New York so they can bring up the AMI. So the average income that may have been 25,000 is now 45,000. You know, so this is where they go and they shift and move people. And with that particular project, their goal is to bring in 50,000 people and displace 25,000 people. But when you look at it on the spectrum, you say, well, why just don't bring in 25,000 people? Because the 50,000 people coming in and it's not looking like you, but the 25,000 people going out is your shadow.
That's it. And what you're talking about talks about rezoning
Yes.
and how rezoning affects our community. It kind of deals again with it deals with our need to be sophisticated politically to understand why we need to participate in the local elections, who's on your school board, who's in your community boards, who are the people who are in your city politics and other things like that. Yes, we're concerned about the national level, but you also must be concerned about the local level as well, because these are the things that directly affect your finances.
Absolutely. And if people don't have it, you have gentrification and things going on right in the community's face, and they're not at the table. They don't have a clue till it's like 2, 3 years out in the pipeline, and they realize, well, they got to move. They got
Right.
this is they put in these amenities here, but they're not for you. They don't
Right.
say directly, but it is what it is, and that's what it is.
Well, listen, our time has gone by so quickly. It generally happens when you're having good conversation that
Absolutely.
it goes by so very, very quickly. Can you give us one more time the ways in which we can connect and people can connect with you around social media and otherwise? You did give us your website, but can you give all of those to us?
Sure. Excuse me. My Facebook is Vanessa Velka de Dancing. That's my whole middle name spelled out as
Okay.
Vielka. I'm also on Instagram. I think it's the Dr. Vanessa de Dancing. If you put my name, you can find me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm accessible. I'm on Facebook. So if anyone's needing needing and willing to take that journey towards financial freedom, I am here for you. It is our time to shine. This is our time to make it work for us, so we can leave this legacy for our kids, build that generational wealth, and set our legacy.
Yeah. We're gonna have to have you back so that we can continue, because we didn't even get a chance to talk about insurances and
Oh, yes.
wills and all of the other things that we were going to talk about, because there is so much information that we need to be able to communicate to our communities and to
Yes.
get people. I really appreciate you being our first guest in 2021. I'm looking forward to having you back, and so that we can continue this dialogue and expose you even more to more people, so that people will be able to utilize your services. I want to thank you for joining us on today. And just before I close out, can you give us a closing for yourself?
A closing for myself for the new year. Don't think about 2020 is gone and 2021 is just here, as if it's not a continuation of 2020. Think now, moving forward, of what you can make different, what you can do different, what you can build, and what you can teach others.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that you said it that way, that 2020, don't think that that's over, and 2021 is something new. It's just a continuation. That is so true. And as we continue in our endeavors to try to keep good and provide good information to each and every one of you who joins us, join us next week when we'll come back with great information again to try to help each of us to move forward in the various areas of our life financially. This month, we're looking to really provide information for you to do what you need to do financially so that you can become better at what God has given you to do in this season of your life. Have an outstanding day. Have a great 2021. We'll see you next week. The Lord bless you. Grace and peace.